What's up YouTube? My name is Rico and I am the CEO of SourceFind Asia, co-host of the Made in China podcast, and of course the host of the SourceFind Asia YouTube channel. So this is another one, but this time it's a on the factory floor episode. It's episode 2 of this series. Like I said, the series is about me visiting Chinese manufacturers, showing you what goes on the factory floor, either doing a QC or visiting, inspecting a supplier, or maybe interviewing a factory owner and manager about dealing with international business and the import-export process. On this episode, we went inside a boutique plastic injection molding and CNC machining manufacturer. So if you've been following the YouTube channel, you should know at this stage, I've talked about this quite a few times, that when you visit a factory, when you physically go there, there should be a clear step to each part of the production process, whether it's having multiple floors. Maybe the first floor is just a workshop, and then the second floor is offices, and the third floor is an assembly line, and then the fourth floor might be storage. And then obviously maybe also on the first floor they have like short-term storage for shipping and things like that. So it's going to depend. It's going to vary from each supplier to each supplier. Larger factories are going to have more space. They're going to have multiple rooms for the same thing. Smaller factories might only have one floor. For example, in this video, this company, they are a very small manufacturer. They only have 40 employees in the factory, and at the time they weren't even that busy. And everything was on one floor. But you still have to look out for, even if everything's on one floor, you still have to see, is there a clear step to each process? Does each part of the production have clear instructions? Is it organized? Is it clean? Those things don't change. If it's bigger, it just means that everything's going to be in a different room or multiple floors. But if it's smaller, it might all be in the same floor. There might be multiple things going on in the same workshop. So I want you to, again, like in the last video, I want you guys to look out for these things that I'm talking about. I want you guys to pay attention to each step of the production and come up with a judgment for yourself to see, like, does this make sense to me, just based off of viewing the video. Of course, when you're physically in the factory, it's a little bit different, but you can still see it from the clips that we're providing.
After all this time, now I realize it's just a game to you, and I don't wanna play no more. After all this time, now I realize it's just a game to you. I don't wanna play no more.
walk into the factory, you can already see that it's tiny, right? Like there was a little display case which kind of was like their showroom as well. It doubled as it was like a display case slash showroom slash short-term storage. Like there was boxes there that were about to be shipped out, and then there was the actual display case that had some of the products there. One thing is, again, it's a little bit, it's normal. Like my office isn't huge. This is one of the meeting rooms, but the actual office space isn't huge. So there's going to be multiple things in there, and it might, when you're extremely busy, it might get cluttered. So it wasn't a big deal to me, but it was just like, okay, you know, you take note, this is a little bit different from larger factories. But one thing that I did pay attention to was some of the items that they had in the display case. Of course, most of the products that they work with are plastic injection molding, so it was all molded pieces. Some notable companies are working with Bose for the, you know, Bluetooth speakers, and then also they did some molding pieces for Mercedes-Benz. First of all, just because they're small doesn't mean that they don't work with big brands, and of course, just because they're small doesn't mean that they can't make high quality products. In fact, a lot of times some of the best manufacturers are the ones that are extremely niche down and specific in what they do. So the next place that we saw was obviously the offices. There was a, you know, little green floor and corridor and whatever, and then there's a bunch of offices. So we saw the showroom. Like I said, that was the first place, and then we saw the meeting room, and then they took us into a small little QC room. So again, this was a tiny room with a bunch of boxes, and all of those boxes were being inspected. So that's a huge positive, of course, right? Like I always talk about this, having a factory has their own in-house QC is always going to be positive. Of course, don't be lazy, you still need to do QC yourself, but just the fact that they had that space was fantastic. And I went in there, they had one lady who was checking design specs on a computer, and then they had all these products that were laid out, and then some products that were in boxes that were already inspected or about to be inspected. Then the next room that we went into was sort of their design room. They have, again, because this factory is very specialized in injection molding, CNC machining, they have their own in-house engineering team, not just engineers that would be working in a factory, but like industrial designers. Another thing is they are selling their own products in China, so they also design their own products. So they had, like, you know, on the wall they had like a bunch of specs of all the individual products that they're working on, and most of their clients are from Japan. So they actually did, I think they also did some products for Honda as well. And yeah, just, you know, very, very focused on getting specific specs done and correct, which is, again, if you're making a product that is very particular, like a product that has very small pieces and intricate parts, or a product that requires specific tolerances like strength and, you know, things like that, like this is the kind of stuff you want to see. You want to see a factory that has these kind of things in-house, which is having, you know, guys who are specialized engineers that are testing the specs that you've given them, double checking them, triple checking them. Like that's really, really good stuff. So then we went into a little bit of the main workshop. So the first place we went into was called like the product piece inspection room. Essentially what it is it was an inspection room specifically for pieces off of the mold. So again, these guys are making their own molds, and they're, you know, performing injection molding in-house. So when they take those individual pieces, they then would take them into this room and then check the dimensions, and they had specific machinery to check different types of different individual mold pieces, depending on material and depending on how they were made. So again, very, very specialized, very, very good stuff that I saw there. And then they had another space called they said the grinding room, but I think it was more of like a tooling room. And in that room, they would work on fixing small defects, tooling small issues, and then fixing small issues with molds. So again, very, very focused in what they do. Moving on to the main factory space. So the first thing that you saw when you walked in was, it's just a big room with a few separate areas for separate things, and then there was another one or two rooms that were for specific types of machining. Again, this is not bad. I think when you go to bigger factories, a lot of the stuff that we saw would have been in separate rooms. But the most important thing is they have the space, they are separating each thing that they do into at least different sections on the factory workshop space, and then they had clear instructions, and I understood the flow to each one of the steps. And the thing is, this factory is not necessarily an assembly place. Like, they're not, when you think of a factory, you think about a place that does everything from, you know, taking the individual pieces to putting it together. And I think most times people think about the places that are putting the individual pieces together. This is the place that makes the individual pieces and then sends it to an assembly house. So sometimes bigger factories have both the, you know, injection molding machinery and CNC machinery, and then also the assembly line in the same place. This place is more focused on the step before that, and then they had a small assembly line in the factory. So after you saw that they were keeping all the individual pieces, these were metal pieces, and then when you walked into the factory space to the right, there was a little small assembly line, which was just one guy basically. And at the time they were not busy, so there was no reason for them to have multiple assemblies. But again, the main focus is actually making the individual pieces. Moving on from the assembly line, one of the first things we saw was their WEDM room, which is a wire electrical discharge machining room. Two of the most common ways you'd make individual pieces for a product is injection molding and then CNC. So injection molding usually deals with bigger pieces. So if you're talking about something like, let's say, the case of this, which is a external charger, it's a power bank. This is basically like 3 pieces put together, and they're all identical. So this would probably be one mold, and okay, so there's maybe there's a 5th piece here, but this side and this side are the same. Right, so these are big pieces. This can be plastic injection molded. Very simple to do this kind of stuff. But there's maybe some smaller parts in here, maybe internally, that are made from either small pieces of plastic or small pieces of metal that are very, very specific in spec, and it's extremely difficult to make small pieces in a mold. So then what you would probably be working with is a CNC machine to make those individual small pieces. But then when you go even more granular and you go even more specific and you're working with metal, a wire, mostly metal, a WEDM machine is the way to go. And most places won't have that, so I was pretty impressed. I think this might be only the 2nd or 3rd time I've seen an actual workshop that had that going. And we got a couple cool clips of them actually using it in the process, and I took my time to see what they were doing there, so that was awesome. And then the next thing that we saw was their injection molding machine, which again, I really loved that they were molding at that exact moment, because I always talk about the process of how injection molding works, and it's one thing to explain it, but it's another thing for you to see it. So basically, injection molding, there's a giant mold, it's made from stainless steel. They put it inside this machine, and then they inject hot plastic into the machine, and then it forms the shape. So, you know, there would be a mold that has the shape of this, and then the plastic would be injected into it. Probably it would be dyed plastic, because this is a simple color like black, and then the piece would come out of the mold. So if you see that clip, that's pretty much what happens. And then of course, beyond around that molding area, they had the actual storage space for the molds. Again, this is all in the same workshop. They had the storage space for the molds. I also got to see them cleaning the molds, which was also kind of a positive thing to see. And then they had a specific space for CNCing, and at the time they weren't using the CNC machines. They didn't really have much going on there at the moment, but you know, they have it, and it's one of the things that they specialize in. So the main thing that they do specialize in is, like I said, plastic injection molding, but they are a all in-house molding place. So they do CNC, they have the WEDM, and you know, so this is one of those places where, like, again, if you have like a specific piece or really intricate pieces to your product that need to be put together, and you know that a typical factory is not going to have the expertise to do it, this is the kind of place that you want to go to. So beyond that, one of the things that I like about the factory is that it's a clean space. Even though it's small, it's a clean space. They're growing. They were very open with me about their situation. They're saying, look, we only have about 40 people right now. We've had a little bit of a busier time earlier in the year. Obviously around Chinese New Year, you think it's going to be busier, but it's not the case for their industry. and they are also selling their own products. So what they really do focus on is they have a really extensive in-house design team, and then with the assembly line, of course, when they have larger productions, they hire more people or they outsource the assembly to other factories, which is fine, as long as you know what's going on. I don't think that's a major issue. Okay, so my main takeaways, some of the things that I like about the factory is that I like that they're small, I like that they're specialized. I think a lot of times typical factories equate growth with having more size, more workers, and sometimes that's not the case. Like if you can maximize what you're doing, and if you're very specialized and niche down with your particular space, which these guys were, they know that they're really good at design, they know that they're really good at machining, CNC machining, injection molding, and if they do need to do assembly, they can do it. They do have the in-house expertise, they just don't have a ton of workers, and it allows them to be flexible because they sell their own products, right? So that's also something to keep in mind, is they do sell their own products. So you want to be a little bit wary about the factories that are really trying to push hard with their own designs, because they will obviously pick up a few things from your designs that you give them. But it was small, it was organized, very specialized. I got to sit down with the boss and the engineers and stuff like that, and that's my main takeaways from the factory. And I would give them, I would say, 4 Hongbaos out of 5. That's our new rating system. A Hongbao is like around Chinese New Year, it's customary for the single children in the family to get a gift from their older siblings or from like their grandparents, and usually it's money. And also usually bosses give their employees a Hongbao, which is like, it's a red packet with money inside. So yeah, we're giving them 4 Hongbaos out of 5. So story time. Why were we at the factory and what did I learn from physically going to another factory? I think at this stage I've been to like, I want to say I've probably been to like over 80 factories, like physically. Maybe even close to 100. I should tally it up, but I know it's over 70 for sure. Anyways, what did I learn from going there this time? I think what I learned was, bigger isn't always better. I think most people tend to lean towards working with a factory that has more people, but for me it's not even more people, it's just about them being busy. Like it's always weird when I go to a factory and there's not that many people, there's not that much stuff going on. Like it's a factory, you're expecting to see a lot of people moving things, shipping stuff, but it wasn't like that at all. But that's not a bad thing, because then when we sat down with the team, they were very eager to take on our project. We were able to sit down with the head engineers and the owner of the factory, and for them to sit down with us for 2 hours and discuss our project. And then also because they weren't that busy, they were able to give us really good production times for what we were there for. So we were there because we have a client who wants to make some prototypes before Chinese New Year. They're launching a crowdfunding campaign. So we've been communicating with a bunch of suppliers. We've worked with this factory before, so I wanted to go give them a proposal for the project first. They already had the details. We just wanted to sit down and like hammer out the issues in design, because the client designed it himself. He made the initial prototypes, but there's some issues with the prototypes, and we wanted to find a factory that has the expertise to take it from where it is right now, which I would say is like 70% there, to take it all the way, right? So we were discussing, lead times and the various design issues, and in real time they're looking at the sample, they're saying, okay, here's point, this is the first problem, second problem, third problem, and then solution. And then anything else that required more discussion or more thought, they said, okay, we'll get back to you within like a week. And then we just had that stuff done. And that's one of my favorite things again about being in China, is like at this stage we haven't paid the factory anything, right? Like we physically went there, but you going there tells the factory that you're serious. It tells the factory that this isn't some random inquiry, and they're going to sit down with you and they're going to give you a bunch of solutions, which they did for us for free. And then the next steps from there is, you know, them giving us a quotation for making the prototypes, and then a more specific lead time, and maybe a quotation for molding and things like that. So again, bigger, busier is not always better. I think sometimes you want to work with a small factory, especially when you are growing, especially if you're in a startup phase. And just because they don't have an extensive assembly line isn't an issue as well, as long as they're open about it and they tell you what the recourse is if they're going to outsource the actual assembly. And if they do outsource the actual assembly, you have to make sure that you visit the factory that they're going to do the assembly at, and you want to make sure that you know who they are, you have their contact information, and make sure that in your sales agreement, your contractual agreement with the main factory, they are liable for any issues that pop up in assembly. All right, so I hope you enjoyed another On the Factory Floor episode, and if you like this kind of content, I want you to like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the things that will help this YouTube channel grow. Before you guys go, I want you to check out this quick video. We are looking for summer interns in SFA. What's up world, my name is Rico. I am the CEO of Source Fine Asia, and if you're wondering what we're going to be up to in 2019 besides me trimming my beard, we're looking to hire a marketing intern for the summer of 2019. So 2 to 3 months in Guangzhou, maybe 1 month in Chiang Mai, Thailand, where my business partner, formerly known as China Mike, now Chiang Mike, is located. And basically we're looking for somebody that can help us improve and promote our content. So all of the stuff that you've been seeing on the YouTube channel, social media management, things like that. And then I want to make more day in the life type videos. And then potentially in Chiang Mai, we're thinking about hosting sort of sourcing, big meetup over there. So if you're interested in applying, go to sourcefinasia.com/intern. And just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that we've done over the past couple of years, here's a quick little montage for you. Alright, so if you like what you see, again, go to sourcefinasia.com/intern. I took a lot of time to write the details into that page about the job post and sort of my expectations, and you can apply through that page. So again, sourcefinasia.com/intern, and I hope to see one of you guys. Anybody's welcome to apply, but one of you guys in China this summer.